everyone. Sorry for the late start. Long story short, needed to get some computer stuff changed over the last week, and not everything happened the way I thought it would. But thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad that you made it. Today is November 24th, 2024. I'm your host, Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everyone. Oh, boy. That was stressful. But I'm glad everybody's here, and I'm really, really excited about today's episode. I have had some callers who have indicated that they were going to be joining early, and some really fun topics that I'm really looking forward to. So, you know who you are, but even for people who want, even for others, I apologize. Let me make sure that I've got this up and correct. Let's see if this works. Yes! Here's the phone number to call in, 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. The cat is sitting on the computer. Okay. All right, that's the thing. Yeah, so while our callers file in and I get that all going, I will make sure that I'm refreshing my my call-in stuff to double check that I don't have callers waiting for me like last week. It has been one heck of a week. Before I dive into the topic, I might as well let you know what happened. There was a blue screen issue with the computer, and I was worried that it was going to affect the live stream. So I wound up needing to get an older computer and move things around, and just getting everything dialed in, all the files, adjusted and moved has been tough. And so making sure that all the assets were there to get this show to happen has been a heck of an undertaking, and I'm just glad that we're here. We made it. We're live, and we're still in 4K, and even the cat's here. So obviously things have worked out decent. Before I get into our first call, I do want to talk about a couple of things. I know that politics has had a big influence on the last couple of episodes, and I think rightfully so. But I also still want to have, philosophical conversations, theological conversations, get into apologetics. And that's going to be one of the main things that we kind of dive into today. Let's take a break from all the craziness and have a little bit of fun here. I wanted to talk about what truth and knowledge are. We've discussed it before. I've brought it up with Elliot when he's been on the show. And I feel like when it comes to philosophical arguments, it's difficult not to have things grounded. So I think we need to settle on and make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to what is true and what is knowledge and how to differentiate those things. And so, between calls, or maybe as a primary reason for a call, I'd love to get into that. I don't want to keep our caller waiting, though. I do have one caller on the line. I am very excited to talk to Max, but before I do, I would love to get other people lined up. So one more time, I'm going to put the phone number out there. Give me just a second here. 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN to call in. All right. Let's dive right in and talk to Max in Illinois. Max, you're live on the show.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully. And first off, I want to say thank you for calling in when you did. You had hopped into the Discord after the show last week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about the transcendental argument for the existence of God. No, you wanted to talk about morality last week, and I asked if you would call in during the show. That way everybody can kind of join us for this. So I really appreciate you calling in early so that we can kind of give you as much time as we need to hash this out. How are you doing this morning?
Good, very good. I was hoping we could, because this problem, I guess my arguments for morality, it ultimately connects back to the transcendental argument for God.
Sure. Okay.
So I would start with this, which is that according to the atheist worldview, there is no objective basis on for morality. You know, why
Well,
is
so you know that there are lots of types of Christians, right? If I were
yeah.
to say, according to the Christian worldview, there'd probably be a different discussion, about what means what. And so let's not paint me with a brush. Let's find out. When you talk about objective, what do you mean by objective?
Like not subject to, not different under different circumstances.
So unchanging.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's kind of entertain that for a second. How about murder? Is murder ever okay?
Mm, how would you define it as what? Unjustified killing of
Well,
someone
so
who's like,
so the word unjustified is very, very tenuous and can differ from person to person. And I feel like when you bring in justified and unjustified, it gets really murky. And I think it's hard to have like really hard and fast rules when you're trying to bring in justified and unjustified. So,
okay, maybe you could say illegal.
yeah, but then again, if you're under a dictatorship, legality is not really a good reason. How about just taking another person's life?
Okay, and we're gonna omit like killing from our discussion because then, if it ever comes up, then it'll be like a confusion.
Yeah, well, I'm just, the reason I'm getting into this is I'm trying to find a really concrete way to interact with the thought that you brought up, right?
Yeah,
Objective morals, and we're talking about, objectivity, right? According to the atheist worldview, there are no objective views, and I'm asking you, what does objective mean? And so we're using kind of murder right now as
yeah, yeah.
as an example to interact with this idea. So, is murder ever okay? Is taking another human's life ever okay to do?
Sometimes it is, yes.
Okay. So, would you say that there's an objective moral stance on murder?
Subjective moral stance. I think it depends on your moral system.
Well, you and I both just agreed that it depends, right? Not on the moral system, but just on the circumstances of the murder, right? If you killed somebody to protect your family, that seems justified, and you and I are probably both okay with that. But it doesn't sound like there's an objective moral viewpoint on just murder as a whole. It's more nuanced, right?
Yes, but there's, how do we know that it's good to protect your family, right?
Well, I think that that's just kind of moving the goalposts. We can get into that, but I'm trying to find a place where we agree here. Like, you and I both agree that protecting your family is a good reason to kill somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're just speaking from like intuition. We're not.
No, well, intuition is vague, but we can get into like justifications and all of that. What I'm trying to get at here is that, at least in the term, in when it comes to murder, there's not an objective moral standpoint. It's all depends on the circumstances.
Let me think about that.
Okay.
Okay, let's say that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I think that I'm even more curious what you mean by objective. So, you're saying, according to the atheist worldview, there are no objective moral opinions or views because there's no objectivity? Is that what you're...
Yeah.
Okay, so again, what do you mean by objective?
Like for example, take the example of I gave on Discord last time, and which was that suppose you have the opportunity to go scot-free of murdering someone who has harmed you in the past and could harm you in the future. There's no reason why um, an atheist wouldn't do it.
There's no, so number one, you have to understand that people vary from person to person, right?
Okay, yes.
And I think that if you're talking about bad people, then you can talk about really shitty Christians and really shitty atheists, right? There are murderers who will try and murder if they can get away with it on all sides, right? So it sounds like it sounds to me like you're trying to paint atheists as sociopaths, as people who would murder if they
No,
were given the
that's
opportunity.
that's not true. That is, I'm using it as an example for the transcendental argument for God.
Okay, so help me get there. Like, I would not want to kill someone, even if I wasn't
Okay.
going to get away with it.
Right, but that's just you. What is so the reason why?
And that's
So, for example,
yeah,
um, theists wouldn't do it is because in one of the Ten Commandments it says, "Thou shalt not kill,"
right,
or murder, whatever.
right.
Since we equate those, um, so there's like an objective uh,
No, there's
um,
not.
prescription
No,
that they shouldn't do it.
yeah, no. Thou shalt not kill was written by a human being, and that just makes it as objective as anything I say. So I don't understand why you would paint those in different categories. It just sounds like you're trying to justify it by saying that it was given to you by somebody that is what? Not human? Can objective morals only come from non-humans? Does it have to come from a god?
It's because it's objective in the sense that it's not contingent on circumstances, right? Like
But we
we
just
could say
agreed
that,
that we just agreed that killing is contingent on circumstances, whether or not it's justified or not. All of that stuff. Like,
well, if you really follow the commandments, then you would just say you would follow that. In that situation, the person, a theist, for example, they would be breaking the commandments. They would be going against divine command to not murder. So they have like an objective basis in that. Whereas an atheist, as you said, it's subjective. You're a good person, you're not going to do it. But someone whose morals are more subjective, are subjective in that they don't think it's wrong, right? Then they would do it, and it
well,
wouldn't be a problem for them.
so hold on. So you think that if a morality is subjective, then it equates to nothing? So if I have subjective morals, then I don't think it's wrong to murder?
I'm saying things. If you have subjective morals, then you you might think it's okay to murder. Yes.
I mean, same with Christians. I like, again, just because it's written in your book does not mean that it wasn't written by a human. I don't carry with
But it's still objective.
it's still objective. Okay, so then how about I just write it in my book? I'll get the book of Eric. I'll write, don't kill people. And then we're on the same page because it's objectively in the book. It's written down. Now we're okay. So now do I have objective morality?
If someone follows this book, then if they follow that book, then it will be objective for
Okay.
them, right?
How about law? We could maybe use that, I guess, right? Maybe we create a fictional country where we make all the laws and we say don't kill and everybody goes, okay, that's important. We're going to follow that. And now we have objective morality. Now we're on the same page. I don't need to be a Christian then. I just need to follow a legal or moral system. That sounds like all of it
Okay,
is
so but
subjective.
then if a moral system says that you should never have an abortion after conception, for example,
Hmm.
how do you evaluate, like how what I'm or like if it's like the Nuremberg laws, right? Like how do you evaluate that these laws are um, good
No,
without God?
well, you're assuming that God is good, and I'm not willing to grant that. But
The definition, well, the definition is that God is good. Good is God.
okay, then you just defined that to be the case. Good for you. I define God as a wife beater. So God, by definition, is a wife beater, right?
I'm not sure how that makes sense. Can you explain it?
Sure. So I define God as perfectly smelly. And because I define it that way, then God is perfectly smelly, right? Just smells like shit. Right. Because I defined
Okay.
it that way, I'm not giving you the option to interact with the idea. I'm telling you what the definition is, and if you want to interact with me on it, then you are granting that God stinks, or that God beats women, or God commits sexual assault. Like all of those things are just me trying to shoehorn my idea into it and not actually opening that up to discussion. So if you want to say God is good, okay. But
What I'm trying to get at is that like good is obviously
good,
subject to interpretation, right?
right. So that means God is subject to interpretation. I'm trying to follow you here.
Well, I'm saying there is no like grounding for morality without God. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Understood. Now let's talk about grounding morality. I think that morality is a discussion that we have with each other, and it's a discussion that we have with ourselves. And it has everything to do with our impact on the world around us and the kind of world that we want to be a part of. I think it's a consensus thing, as uncomfortable as that is. I think that looking back at history, we can see that morality has changed, right? We used to live in a country, you live in Illinois, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Illinois.
so here in the United States, we lived in a country that owned people as property.
Right.
And there was a point in time when people had no problem with that.
Yeah.
That has changed. Our morals have changed. It is a discussion. It is something that we have evidence for is consistently changing. So, what evidence do you have that morals are grounded in something unchanging? Because I just gave you evidence that it is.
Because then, so you're saying that like why should like the values of you know like the Confederacy, for example, uh, or why should the values of like the North prevail over the South, right? Like
No,
in this question of slavery,
so
just
so
because the North beat them militarily?
so that's not quite what I was saying. What I was saying was I gave you an example of moral views changing in a society over time. That is a
Yeah.
concrete example showing you morals changing over time. As people change and societies change, their moral values change as well. So I gave you an actual example that you recognize. Can you give me an actual example of morals not changing or being grounded in something that's not just people in society?
Okay. You shouldn't murder a newborn baby for arbitrary reason.
Okay. Does it say that in the Bible?
It says you should murder.
Right. We just talked about how that's vague and up to interpretation. But the murder for fun of an infant, definitely, I agree with you on.
But why do you agree? Why do you say that it is immoral, right?
Because I'm a social creature. We all are. Because the people who said that it was moral did not survive to pass on their genes. Like we're here because it's kind of built into us. We have empathy, and empathy is not a vague thing. It's a biological thing. We care about and receive, affirmation, confirmation of why, we give each other importance and behaving in a way that's societally like expected allows us to continue to be in that society. So yeah,
So it's like a utilitarian point of view that we shouldn't do it because um, if we do it, then we don't have people. Is what you're saying?
well, I mean, kind of from an outside perspective, yeah. Now, would I have killed a baby before I thought about that? No, it would make me feel awful. I'd feel terrible. There would be some part of me that would be absolutely disgusted with that idea. And then I'm kind of finding justification after the fact of, why did I feel that way? I think you do that too. And I think that you point to God after the fact for why you would do a good thing.
Okay, so then you're not, if morality is, so can we agree that it's like utilitarian in a way? Because if not, then what is the basis of it?
So it's not utilitarian. This is a nuanced point that I don't really get to talk about enough, and I think it's important here. I think we make decisions and then afterwards try and justify those decisions most of the
Okay.
time.
So it's like arbitrary?
Well, not arbitrary, but like, Max, you're walking down the street and a building is on fire, right? We can talk
Yeah.
later about what you could have done and should have done. And let's say you ran in and saved a baby. That's wonderful, right? You can give your reasons for it after the fact. But that's not necessarily what was going through your head at the time. You can say, oh no, a fire. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to be sad that baby died if you didn't go inside. Like, all of those things are kind of post hoc rationalizations of your decision. I feel like most people rationalize their decisions after the fact.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And for me as a Christian, I did really nice volunteer things, and then after the fact, I said I want to give the glory to God. I didn't do them because that was my thought in the first place. I wanted to do a good thing, and then I gave that credit to God. Do you kind of see what I mean here?
Yeah, sort of, but I still have questions. So,
Yeah.
let's take your burning building example.
Yeah.
If one could, or let's say there's like a small fire that's, you can just pick up the fire extinguisher off the wall and extinguish it. If one could do it, are they morally like obligated to do it? If it's like at low risk to them?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Why are they morally obligated to do it?
Well, I think if you can do something, you should. If you can do something to make the world around you better, you should.
And then how do we define better? How do we define good?
Well, I don't want to see unnecessary human suffering. I want to see human flourishing.
Okay, so it's like sort of utilitarian in that suffering is something that we should avoid.
Definitely.
And happiness, flourishing is something that we should promote.
Yeah, no, I do want to be really honest with you, Max. If I'm seeing the fire and I see the fire extinguisher right there and I can do something about it, I'm not sitting there going, is this going to help human suffering or human flourishing? How's this going to fit into my grand overall design about human flourishing? Like, I'm not doing that at that time. After the fact, I'll go, hey, you know what? That definitely lends to human flourishing, that I put out the fire. Do you kind of see
it's sort of like self-evident, right?
I don't think it's self-evident. I think just after the fact, we justify our behavior most of the time.
So it's arbitrary then?
Is it? Because we just agreed that putting out the fire is a better thing than not.
Well, that was like the arguments that we're discussing. Like, why is it better? Why is it good to not let like a building burn down?
Because it makes me feel good to help other people.
What if it makes someone else feel good not to help other people? What if they have like Schadenfreude?
Yeah, or we call people sociopaths, right? Who don't get a good feeling from helping others.
And we call them that because it hurts society, like social surplus, for example, right? We could say them not putting down that fire, they being sociopathic, means that the actions they take will, cause suffering for society. So it's like utilitarian. Isn't that
Well,
right?
no, because and I hate to be contrarian here. I just believe that sociopathy is a brain wiring thing. You know,
Okay. Um,
I think that it feels good to do good, for other people and to help other people and to lessen suffering and harm for others. And I think that people with sociopathy don't have those feel good responses, that we do.
so maximizing happiness, like objectively, it's not something people should do. It's just what we as a society agree we should do.
I don't think we'd have a society if we didn't.
So yeah, it's something. It's like a societal
It's like a
agreement.
prerequisite to a social species, right? Like, take a look at other social species. Um, look at dolphins. Look at ant colonies. Look at that there is a collective effort towards the overall well-being of that community in order for that community to thrive. We're social animals, so it only makes sense that we see the same thing.
Okay, so can you expand on that?
Yeah, we're social animals. So the one of the examples that I used to always give is mirror neurons. People have been given electrodes on their head and respond to certain stimulus. And what's interesting is if you see someone experiencing pain, there's a part of your brain that can kind of feel that pain, right? If you see somebody smash their hand, you go, ooh, and you kind of, grab your hand. And we've kind of explored that and determined that, you have neurons in your brain that will fire empathetically with other people, right? If you see someone suffering, there's a part of you that kind of mirrors that suffering. I think that that is something that is kind of built into social species. I think that other animals also have that, which encourages them to help each other.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, I mean, I'm not. I don't know if it's built in the social species or if it's just quality of like more developed organisms to like we can imagine what it's like to happen to us, and so we squirm at that.
I think there's a more like lizard brain piece to that. But regardless, yeah, I think there's a biological reason for empathy and kindness. So again, I feel like we kind of got off topic here. What was the larger point that you were calling it about?
Yeah. So the larger point that I was going to present and what I started with was that in without objective basis for morality,
Mm-hmm.
there um, that the fact that morality exists, that across societies people can generally agree that killing infants is wrong,
Yep.
then that means that there is a non-subjective, like not like each society doesn't have a different view on it.
Well, they
So
do.
that means that killing infants is wrong.
Well, different societies definitely have had different, lines when it comes to killing and when it's valuable and when it's not valuable. Take a look at honor killing in the Middle East. Like, you and I
Yeah,
probably would agree that's bad, yeah. But you
yeah,
made it,
we would.
you made a statement about objective morality, but I just gave you biological reasons why we can behave morally. I've talked to you about how we see that in other species. I've talked to you about the practicality of how we talk about and justify things morally, both in the moment and after the fact. I brought up that, okay, if yours is written in a book, then if it's just written in a book, does that make it objective? So then I can write it down in a book and now it's as objective as yours. You didn't really push back on that, but all of those things undermine the point that you were making.
Okay. Well, the fact that we have this higher idea of, morality, that you still haven't provided me an example of society where killing infants is wrong.
I mean, I that feels like that's been our entire conversation.
So where is killing infants wrong?
So killing infants is wrong in every society. We've codified that legally.
Oh, sorry. I'm not wrong. I misspoke.
When it's not wrong, give me just a second.
Okay.
So, do you got your Bible?
No, I don't have it.
No?
I don't own a Bible.
You don't own a Bible? I'm going to grab one.
No.
Give me just a second.
Okay.
I've got King James here. I'm going to turn to Psalm 137:9. Okay?
Okay.
And for people who are listening to the podcast, thank you for your patience. Give me just a second here. Oi. Kings, Job, Ezra, Psalms. I'm on Psalm 29. I got to go up to Psalm 137. Here we go. Psalm 137:9. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones.
Okay, and what's the context of that?
Now, that doesn't sound too good for Christians, does it?
Yeah, but what is the context of that?
Let me give you the larger Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. Well, looks like I'm probably going to get kicked off of Twitch for that. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? I forget you, Jerusalem. May my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. If I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. This is contextually someone who is imagining revenge for the destruction of a unified Israel, I believe.
Okay, so it's not really like a commandment, right? It's just someone describing how they're in a bad place and how they wish that gets revenge on the people who oppress them.
Yeah, I mean, that's all throughout the New and Old Testament. And I thought that Christians took that kind of stuff really, really seriously. I might be wrong, I guess. So it sounds like
well,
you're
I
saying...
mean, I'm not like a Protestant,
yeah,
like sola
no.
scriptura.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying that the Bible is subjective.
It depends. I align with the Orthodox view that one person cannot just interpret it, that we need a body of people who have the necessary education and who can trace the traditions of the church to interpret it for us.
So are you saying that if enough Christian leaders got together and said that it's totally cool to murder the infants of your enemies, then it would be objective and moral, and that correct?
No, it depends on the tradition. Like, like the Orthodox, they can trace all the way back to whatever Council of Nicaea, some other type stuff, and so they have the necessary, I guess, faculties to
Okay.
interpret this. Not like if a bunch of Protestant pastors came together and said, like, like homosexuality is a-okay because the way we interpret this book says that it's fine. That wouldn't make it a definitive like statement on what is true in the Bible, because they don't have connection of like years and years, thousands of years of the church.
I mean, that sounds like an awful way to view morality, because that would mean that, for thousands of years, the church have treated women like property. So if we're going to talk about that, then do you think that women should be allowed to vote or own property or go out in public by themselves?
Well, what does the Bible say about it?
What does the Bible say about it?
I would say it has to, what it says in the Bible as interpreted by the Orthodox. I would lean towards that view.
Say that last part one more time.
I said whatever is in the Bible as interpreted by the Orthodox, I would lean towards that view.
Okay, so so if we're going to talk about Orthodox opinions, then women should not have positions of power in church. They should not be allowed to have any, should not be allowed to teach men, and are owned by their fathers until that ownership is passed from their father to their husband. Women are not themselves autonomous beings, but property owned by men. That is consistently.
Is that the Orthodox view?
That has consistently and historically been the interpretation and the way that Christian society has viewed women and has propped it up using biblical passages. So it sounds like you're against women having rights.
I disagree with that. So the first part you said about them not being able to teach men, if that is what is in the Bible, in the whole collection of books as interpreted by the Orthodox, that they cannot be pastors, I don't see why they want to be pastors, why they should be, just because they can doesn't mean they should.
Oh,
right?
Okay. So what is it about it that makes women unqualified to be pastors?
Well, I don't know, but it would be.
It sounds like you've got enough of an opinion to open your mouth about it, so I hope that you can back that up at least a little bit.
Well, if I say my view, then it will be subjective, because it would be just what I think based on my intuition.
Well, let's use your tools for that. Let's look at what church fathers have done. Let's look historically at the last 2,000 years about how women were treated. What it says in the New Testament about women speaking up in church, having any authority over men, or being allowed to have positions of authority in the church. It sounds very much like, I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm just talking about the doctrines and history that you defer to. Even if
but if you're just going by the book, then that's like, I need to follow the interpretation of, say, like the Greek Orthodox Church, or the Russia, or the Orthodox Church in America, right?
Do you think that the Greek Orthodox Church or the Russian Orthodoxy, either of them are particularly pro-woman?
Well, I'm not sure about the Greek. I know, and there's two types of Russian Orthodox Church. There's the one in America, and then there's the Putin-controlled one. But
okay,
so
which one do you follow?
The Orthodox Church in America.
Okay, so does that mean that if I am Christian and I follow the one in Russia, I'm actually, I don't have access to objective morality?
Yeah, then you're also like a deceived person, and what you're doing is bad by following the Moscow Patriarchate, because they are ultimately all KGB agents who are controlled by the state, and I mean, you laugh at that, but it's,
Yeah, I
you
do.
know,
So here's the thing. I think that if your God wants people to follow, like if I were to, even grant that your God existed, if your God is only there to support and is only really listening to and has the right thing said to one tiny faction of a tiny faction of Christians, your God's doing a terrible job at disseminating these objective morals.
I don't see how that's an argument.
No,
Um,
no, no. It's just
why should
it's
he?
just an observation. Why should God do that? Well,
Why,
do you,
why should he do that?
well, don't you think that if their objective morals existed, that you would want everyone to have access to them, to know that they were objective?
Are you like trying to relate the, like I would relate it to like free will, like just
No,
because.
no, 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 no. I don't. Um, if you were God, if you had all the power in the universe at your fingertips, do you think you could do a better job at letting people know that the American uh, Catholic
Orthodox Church in Europe,
orthodoxy
yeah.
is the one and true and only um, objective morality?
I don't know if I can like. I don't know. I cannot make that
Oh, but
judgment because
hold on.
I'm.
But what if you're all knowing? Then you know, right?
If I would know what,
If you were all knowing, if you had the intelligence of God and the power of God, you think you'd do a better job than your God's currently doing at that?
but in order for me to like say whether yes or no, I don't have that knowledge now, so it's just conjecture, right? Like
I
I
mean,
cannot know
like
what he knows.
all of this is kind of conjecture. But okay, maybe I can't pin you on that. I think that is a very very silly viewpoint. Um,
That you can know that you can be better than God. Isn't that kind of arrogant?
so specifically, I think it's very very silly to think that the even if objective morality existed, that the specifically American as opposed to Greek and Russian Orthodox Catholic, religion is the only access to objective morality.
Wait, okay.
That,
Can I just respond to that?
yeah.
So the autocephalous whatever type, it's I'm just Orthodox Church in America, just how because it happens to be in America. If I was in Greece, maybe I would be Greek Orthodox, but what I wouldn't be is ROCO, or Russian Orthodox Church, outside of Russia, or the Moscow Patriarchate, because they're all like it's objective. It's in the archives. There are documents that the current patriarch of Moscow is a KGB informant who is, and the whole church in Russia is just completely corrupt and just propping up the government of Putin. That's not like a matter of view. That's a fact.
Yep. No, I agree. And I also don't think that their religion is correct. And I don't think your religion is correct. So kind of that's a non-starter, to me at least. I really don't care about what fights you want to pick with the Greek and Russian Orthodoxy. I think all of it is all very silly.
Okay, so back to my
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so what percentage of society are American Catholic or Orthodox?
I'm not sure, maybe like 5, maybe
Okay,
8.
so only 5% of people have access to objective morals. Yeah, if you're right.
I would say that everyone who is religious has access to objective morals.
Even Russian Orthodox Catholics.
You mean like the people in Moscow? They're wrong, but their morals are objective.
But their morals are objective. Okay, so it sounds like you just you changed your viewpoint here, that only American Catholic Orthodox Christians have access to objective morality, and now you're saying everyone has access to objective morality.
I mean, objective in the sense that it's like not subject to circumstance, right? like the trolley problem, right? For example, if there's a trolley going and it's going to kill some people, should you push a fat man on the rails and stop the trolley? It's 1 versus 5, right? Like, what is the morality of that? According to some atheists, there's going to be like some people are going to say, I would feel wrong if I do it, so I should let those people die. Or they could say, I would feel wrong if I let those people die, so I should do it. And I think Christians who like examine their beliefs would say it would be wrong to push the fat person on the tracks because that would be murder.
Okay.
Because like objectively in the Bible it says, "Thou shalt not kill."
I mean, we like right at the beginning of this conversation, we already wrote off murder as something that is objective. It's not objective. It's entirely subjective and entirely contextual, whether or not it's a good or bad thing. We went over that right at the beginning.
What about in this example?
I'm sorry?
Doesn't this example show that religious have a objective moral standard? Because they would all say they would not actively push the man on the tracks, and the non-religious could have a subjective moral standard.
So I think that you have a subjective moral standard. I think everybody does, and I think that you are just trying to convince yourself that it's objective because it feels better. I don't think a God exists. I don't think that there is a deity that inspired the Bible, and that is granting the idea that the Bible is moral in the first place, and I don't think it is. So I think that what you're saying is wrong over and over and over, and so many points that I genuinely can't even pick a place to point out to say where you're wrong, because there are just so many places where you're wrong here. So, give me a place where we can start, because I feel like we've gone through this, right? We've talked about where about morality being subjective. We've talked about how murder is just, whether or not it's a good thing is dependent on the situation. You agreed with me on that, and I don't think that the example that you're giving eliminates the conclusion that we already came to together.
Okay, let's go through that example and tell me how this means that all of morality is subjective.
Well, we're talking about murder. Do you want to talk about all morality?
I want to talk about this example.
Okay, then let's talk about this example. Thou shalt not kill, right? That means killing is bad.
Yeah.
That means if somebody wants to break into your house and murder your family, if you try to kill them, you're trying to do a bad thing. And if you do kill them, you did a bad thing. Correct?
So I thought we were discussing the trolley example.
I think
because the reason I'm using this example is because it serves better for my argument. You use that because it serves better for yours, right?
No, the trolley problem has other issues that are unrelated that would make it more complex. And so if we're trying to, I'm trying to cut down as many outside factors as possible so that we can come to conclusions, like if you want to talk about the trolley problem, I'm not the right person to talk to about it. So I'm not using that example.
Why don't you want to talk about it? Is it the fact that there's like 5 people? We can make it 1 for 1. Let's say there's 1 person on the tracks, and then there's 1 other person on the tracks.
Because at that point, at some point, we're both just going to go, and walk away from it. And I don't think that it's useful. I think I want to, instead of trying to do math on that, let's talk about whether or not murder is wrong, and not whether I think murder is wrong. Is murder objectively wrong outside of my view? Outside of my perspective, outside of all circumstances, is murder wrong? Thou shalt not kill.
Okay,
is that a bad thing?
Let's talk about that. But you're bringing in the circumstances of, a home invasion.
Right, because I'm making the argument that that morality is ultimately subjective, and that you think it is too. So when you look at the 10 Commandments, we can talk all about how the 10 Commandments is one of the worst examples of moral guidance ever given, by the way. But if we just focus in on murder, thou shalt not kill. Is there an asterisk that says unless it's for self-defense? Or does it just say thou shalt not kill?
That's a very good question. And I would answer this. Having read Leo Tolstoy's The Kingdom of God is Within You, in that he gives a argument that even in that situation, it would be wrong to kill someone in self-defense,
Okay.
as would be in war, or as would be in voting, for example. Actually, he's against voting. So, I mean, it's a tough question, and
I mean,
you know,
I will say that, killing somebody in self-defense or in defense of the people that you love, totally okay with me.
why?
Because I want to protect the people that I love. I love them.
What if you hate your family? What if your family is kind of shitty to you?
Well, then I probably wouldn't say that, huh?
But you brought this particular example, so it's we just go back to like you say, if someone breaks into your house and tries to murder your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should murder them in self-defense. What if? But that is subjective. It's based on if you like care about your family
This is true.
and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, that's very true. Good call. I'm glad that you agree that murder being bad is subjective.
No, it's objectively bad, but
Oh.
it's only objectively bad for the Christians, for the well, I'm not, yeah, Christians. Let's say Christians.
Okay, it's only objectively bad for Christians. Okay, but if I write it
Because
down in a
like in this
book,
example,
but if I write it down in a book that it's bad, then I can say it's subjective as well, right?
yes, because if you write in the book that no matter what, as it's written, I suppose, then yeah, it becomes objective. Like if it's not affected by circumstance, it's objective.
Okay, that is a very, very silly way to view morality, and I feel like what you're doing is putting your moral judgments outside of yourself so you don't have to think about it. And it makes sense so long as it makes sense to you. And when it doesn't, then, well, let's see what the history says. Let's see what the church leaders say. Let's see, what if it's the right orthodoxy that's saying it, because you're trying to look for justifications to not have to follow it, because your morality is subjective. It's yours, and you're looking for justifications after the fact to ground it in a Christian mentality. But that's not how any of that works. And that's not what you're doing factually. So I don't understand where you
Okay,
get off
so
accusing atheists of being subjective when everything you're doing to get to your justification is subjective as well.
they're subjective because there isn't a ultimate source for morality.
I agree. Thank you. I'm glad we agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't think there's any objective moral duties or values? So if a society kills babies, that's fine because it's their subjective morals, right?
Well, it probably wouldn't be a society for very long. But that would be the case, wouldn't it? There was a society that we live in currently. The United States owned people as property. But just because that makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that history isn't true. Right?
It doesn't make me uncomfortable. I'm just not
It doesn't make you
understanding.
uncomfortable. It makes me extremely uncomfortable that the country
we
that I
own
live
slaves?
in owned slaves. Yeah. It does not make you uncomfortable at all.
I mean, I can understand why people don't like that, and I wouldn't want to be a slave myself. But like, it just in Rome they used to, I don't know, throw babies off a rock, right? Right, like deformed babies, and if there would exist like some hyper, some society where, like, take action T whatever in Germany, where they would just get rid of all the cripples and invalids. That's, according to them, that was moral. It was even legal and legislated. Doesn't make it right, but unless, of course, you say morality is subjective. So that allows like all sorts of atrocities to be committed.
No, it doesn't. people commit atrocities and they try and give justifications for those atrocities. So me saying that my understanding of morality is different than people 100 years ago,
Yeah.
do you disagree with me on that?
That your understanding of what's moral and not is different than
Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that yours is, yeah.
Okay. So then you understand that people's understanding of morality changes, correct?
Not if you're like a Christian, because then you have an
Bullshit.
objective moral
No,
standard.
no, 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 no. Do you not know that that Christian slave owners taught Christianity to their slaves? Do you not
That was
know
Protestants.
that Christians still currently can absolutely justify racism, sexism, and violence against marginalized people and point to their Bible as their reasoning and justification for it? Don't tell me Christians wouldn't do that, because they have and
Yeah,
they
the
do.
Protestants do that because they believe that their interpretation is the correct one.
Okay, hold on. No, you're not going to throw stones in that glass house, buddy. Catholics are responsible for untold amounts of war and violence in the name of God and their religion.
So the Pope during the colonization, he issued like edicts that forbade enslavement of the New World Indians. So as far back as then,
and a pope also instituted the Crusades, right?
so
Wasn't
I
that
mean,
wasn't
he
that
did what
signed off by a pope?
Yeah, but you're saying
Okay, so
as
then
if it's
get
like
off
something
get
terrible.
off whatever moral high horse you think you're on, because you're right here in the muck with everybody else that you're pointing finger at. And so is your religion. Your very specific religion too.
Because it provides objective standard.
No, it doesn't.
Right? Like,
this entire conversation has been us going around and around the block on this. The example that we keep going to is murder, and the one that every time we go into the specifics on it, you agree with me that murder being moral or immoral has everything to do with the circumstances, which means that murder is not objective when it comes to morality.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay. So
because you're trying to pull like an emotional appeal that like, oh, someone invades your house and it's your family, which most people, I would say,
Max,
care about.
I'm honestly meeting you where you're at, because you are giving an emotional appeal. The idea, oh, it's just subjective, and so it was okay for them, is an emotional appeal. You're not actually you're not actually giving objective reasoning. You're not giving me a logical argument with premises. You're trying to be morally outraged at the idea that people felt justified to do shitty things in the past. All I'm doing is saying that people felt justified about doing shitty things in the past. I'm not even justifying them. All I'm saying is that that is a historical fact. And your moral outrage about it is what you are bringing to the table, and then you have the audacity to accuse me of giving a more. I'm just meeting you where you are, buddy.
Well, you're giving examples of like a socio-political, economic thing like the Crusades, which, you know, not everyone agrees that they were bad necessarily. It's just like any sort
Okay,
of
so
war.
hold on. Your response to the Crusades being bad is not everybody agrees that they were bad. Is that what
I
you
think everyone
just
would agree
said?
the Holocaust is bad.
Hold on.
You know, I'm hoping
Hold on. Now, I
yeah.
kind of want to pin you here. Your response to my saying that the Crusades was bad is that not everybody agrees that it was bad. Is that really what you just said?
You're just like trying to like emotionally paint me as like, I mean, not all of them were bad. You know, like it's not like it's not the Holocaust, right? The Holocaust was bad, and Crusades, you know, could be debated.
Max, I think that you should sit on that one. Think about it. I think you should even go to church and talk to people about it. Maybe talk to a church leader about whether or not the Crusades were bad. Because I think that honestly, even church leadership would say that was a bad thing.
Well, I'm not sure what the church says about it, and it's good. Yeah,
look into it.
I should get the opinion of the church.
Absolutely.
But you just have your own intuition. So
what?
So like I'm saying, you know, someone who just goes off of their own subjective morals, Protestants included, can justify all sorts of things like the Holocaust, like
And Catholics justify the Crusades. Good job. You
they
are
weren't
just in the
bad.
muck like everybody else.
Yeah, but they weren't as bad. Like,
They
there's
weren't
different
as
degrees.
bad. Okay.
Are you
Max,
really going to say that the Crusades were worse than the Holocaust, or just as bad?
I think you should really look into what was done in the name of God in the Holy Land. I think you should really look into what happened there, and then tell me if you really want to take that stance. But not as bad and just as bad, less good. Those are all subjective opinions that you are giving, because just like everyone else, you have a subjective moral viewpoint and you're trying to justify it by pointing to a religion after the fact. You're doing it, and you've been doing it this entire conversation.
Okay, I mean, I disagree with that. I don't know what you want to say. Maybe I'll call in next time and flesh out my argument more, and we can have this discussion.
I like that. Isn't it interesting, Max, that when it comes down to it, even though it felt very specific at the beginning, there's so much room for us to deviate in 10,000 directions that it feels to me like we only took a half a step into this conversation, and yet we've been talking for almost an hour.
Yeah,
isn't that wild?
In the search for the truth, yeah.
And that's why I will tell callers, hey, try to get specific when you call in, because even when it feels specific, it can get really wild. But Max,
okay,
yeah. I just wanted to say, as a human being, I think you seem like a pretty cool dude. And
okay, just one last thing. Are you familiar with Jay Dyer?
I'm not.
The reason I call is because I'm a skeptic like you, and his argument. I watched his debate with Matt Dillahunty on this exact thing, the transcendental argument for God, and it seemed like very high brain to me. So I'm just curious if you could maybe look into it, and because I'm interested to see your rebuttals. It seems to me like a very complex argument.
It is a very complex argument.
To address.
Yeah, I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, the transcendental argument is not even an argument. What it is it's an emotional appeal that seeks to invalidate the other side so that you don't have to deal with what they're saying. All you got to do is write them off and say that they're somehow either misled, evil, or are actually secretly Christians and secretly lying to you because they're using the same morality that you are, and they just don't want to admit it. That is the core of the transcendental argument, and I think that it is a horrible argument for so many reasons. But I wish that I could talk to you all day, Max. I know I have other callers, and I want to get to them, but
okay, thank you.
Yeah, hey, take care of yourself.
You too. Bye.
Bye. I did not know that we had been going for an hour. I'm sorry, guys. But it was fun to me, and I deeply appreciate Max calling in. Let's move on, talk to John in Canada. John, thank you for waiting for 45 minutes. I appreciate you.
How are you, Eric?
Hey, doing okay. You're coming in real quiet.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now?
I can. I'm just going to bump your volume up a bit. That way everybody else can hear you as well. And while I get your lower third going, talk to me. What's on your mind?
So I've been talking to you for a while lately.
Yeah.
And I had lots of questions, and you answered them, and I'd like to thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Hey, I'm happy that it helped.
Yeah. So even though we disagree, I'm glad that you answered my questions. But I'd like to say that I've been doing a lot of thinking.
Okay, that's good.
And as I'm thinking, I see. Okay, it's kind of hard for me to say this, but I really don't see any reason for me now to believe in God.
Okay.
Because your arguments, I couldn't overcome your arguments. I don't see anything to really prove it.
That's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. You know, for
Yeah.
me, when
Yeah.
I was kind of deconverting,
Yes.
um, I tried to take as many pro God arguments as I can because I did not want to live in a world where that was the case, where there was no God.
Okay.
And I think that eventually, as each of those arguments failed, I realized I did not have a cubby to hide my God belief in anymore. You know what I mean? I kept moving it. Like, no, okay. Oh, did you ever see Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind?
That's the one with Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
No, I never seen it.
No, oh, it's so good. The premise of the movie is that Jim Carrey's character wants to he goes in for a procedure that will remove every memory of this ex-girlfriend of his because anytime he thinks about her, it hurts too much.
Okay.
And so the surgery is going into his mind and zapping out all of her parts, right?
Okay.
And so that he would just never remember her. And the tearjerker piece of it is he keeps moving her, he keeps hiding her, he wants to protect her, and even though it hurts, he doesn't want to forget her. And
Oh,
so
I see.
and so he starts sticking her in places where she doesn't even belong, just so that his mind can't erase her completely. And that feels similar to what my relationship was with God, honestly. That
Oh.
as my doubts continued, as I realized that it was making less and less sense, I kept holding on to this God idea and wanting to find places to put God so that God could still exist in my life.
Okay.
And eventually it didn't
So,
work.
so if I hear you correctly, you were having your doubts, but you were still trying to hold on to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So
And
it was a big
so,
part of you.
yeah.
Okay.
And I eventually I realized I had to come to the conclusion that it's not working. You know, like you can keep praying and praying, but eventually praying doesn't feel good anymore because you know there's nobody listening on the other side of it.
It's
You,
like it's like being a fan of a movie or a franchise. You were really into it, and one day you realize. Well, I won't say one day, but you start losing interest in it. But you keep trying to reignite your interest to keep up, and eventually you just realize it's hopeless. Like you're done,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think the context of you having called over and over again, trying to give different arguments for the existence of God, I don't know you and I don't know your experience, but it feels to me like you went on a similar journey to me.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
sound about right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really appreciate that. But before I go, I just want to say one thing.
What's that?
I don't know how you're going to take this. I hope you don't take this the wrong way. But you remind me of the actor Dean Cain.
Superman?
Yeah.
Hey! That's very sweet of you.
Okay.
He is handsome.
Oh yeah, he is.
He is a handsome dude.
Yes, he is.
But John, I know that it you know, and this is just me probably projecting myself onto you. And that's probably not fair, but in case it's true, I know that it's an uncomfortable place to be in deconverting. And I don't want you to think that you need to make a decision right away or for anyone's approval, but because you've epistemically looked at it, right? You've really used the toolbox at your disposal and done the best that you could to understand the world around you the best you can. And whatever conclusion you get to.
That's what I've done.
Nice.
Because I didn't go into it thinking I need to be right and I need to find proof. I wanted to know the truth. Like what is this all about? And I can't find anything. But anyway, I'm still searching, though. I just want to make that clear.
Well, good. Keep searching. And I'm glad that you are giving it thought. I know the last time we spoke, I kind of called out and said, hey, are you using me as the person who's doing the thinking first? And I really appreciate that. It sounds like you took that to heart. You are thinking about things. And keep exploring. Don't ever stop asking questions.
Oh, I won't. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Take care of yourself.
Okay. You too. Have a good day.
All right. Our call screener is talking to the next person. I do want to say that there was someone named Asa in Washington who had a really cool topic. And I'm really sad that their call dropped. And I hope that they call back in. If not, understood. But in the meantime, while I wait for this next this next call to be queued up, let me say, hey, holidays are coming up. And I've definitely seen, on Patreon, people say, hey, I got to take a break. And I totally understand it. The messages that I've gotten from people who say, hey, if, I'm sorry, but, got to take care of family and all of that. And I want to tell all of you that you taking care of yourselves, taking care of your families or whatever your financial situation is way more important to me than supporting the show, because you need to be well first. If you are in a position and you like what this show is and what it does, and you can, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. I'm a one-man show when it comes to doing this part, the production, the hosting, all of that. And I am incredibly lucky to have the volunteers who are in the super chats, who are in the live chat, who are on Discord, who are on Facebook and everywhere else, helping make this happen at the same time. We're screening calls. But we're really doing this on a shoestring. So if you do like the show and you want to support it, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. If, again, hey, you know what? That's not something you can do. Totally understood. No shade. But like the show. Have you hit the like button on this video yet? If you haven't, do it now, please. Every little bit goes to help making sure that this video can get out there and this channel can get discovered by other people. Share it with somebody that you think would appreciate it. And hit the notification bell for notifications on when I put out videos and the live streams coming out. All of that helps make this go. And I can't do it without you. So thank you. Also, at the end of every episode, I read the super chats. So if you want to say something, you want to make sure that I read it. I can't read the conversation going on in the live chat, while I'm also hosting and producing. But if you want me to read it, I read it at the end of every episode. And that is another way that you can make sure that I read it. Also, in 15 minutes, for people who are listening to the podcast, this is not going to contextually make sense, but 90 minutes into every episode, the after show starts on the Discord. You can always go to the link in the description and join the Discord after show. I go in after every show and hang out with people and just kind of let my hair down and relax. And I'm always happy for people to join us there. That said, I'm ready to move on to the next call. Let's talk to Sunny. I love talking to Sunny in Indiana. Sunny, you are live on the show.
Oh boy.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for taking the call.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling in. What's up?
Well, I've been struggling with something lately, and I wanted to share it with you. Maybe we can chew on it together and figure something out.
I like that. I'm getting your information in the lower third. You know the deal.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I got you.
Yeah. Okay. So what's up? What's on your mind?
Yeah. So I've always been really accepting of other folks being religious. I'm an atheist myself. I just don't believe. I've never really been a believer. I grew up in an evangelical church because my grandma took me to one, but I've never really, bought into it. But I've always had a real acceptance for folks that do. It's never bothered me, of course. I've even supported it. I buy my grandma gifts that have religious iconography on them because I know she likes them, things like that. But, man, so I've been working on sewing some custom pinch pot oven mitts and pot holders that I'm going to give to my family for Christmas presents this year.
Nice.
Yeah, it's Thanks. It's a good, easy way to make a gift that's not going to break the bank. So I picked out fabric for everybody that aligns with their interests.
Okay.
And for my grandma, I picked this fabric that has like some Christian iconography on it, some ornate crosses, words like hope, joy, love, things like that over it. It struck me as innocuous at first, but as I was working on this sewing project and looking at this fabric, my mind kept wandering, and I found myself really ruminating on, Project 2025 and all of these politicians who want to turn America into a theocracy and force their religion onto everyone, and taking away the rights of women and marginalized groups. And I kept getting angry. I started getting really disgusted with this fabric that I was working with. And I was sitting here thinking, I don't like this. I don't like that I'm feeling intolerance. I don't like that as I'm working on this gift that I'm making lovingly for my grandma, who I adore.
Yeah.
I don't like that as I'm working on this, I'm feeling these negative emotions. And I'm afraid that I'm becoming intolerant of religion, and I don't want to be that way. But I just wanted to call and complain, I guess.
No, it makes sense to me. And I feel like there is a big disconnect when we're talking about, people that we love and these kind of bigger ideas. I feel like it's really exemplified in the earlier conversation I had today with Max, right? I brought up...
what a doozy that was, by the way. Kudos to you for not just screaming.
Why?
I shouldn't criticize the other callers, but...
Max drove the conversation everywhere I wanted it to go.
He did. But man, that was... as a vagina haver, I was very frustrated.
But I do feel like there is a lot that is being demonstrated from that conversation, right? When Max was made uncomfortable about a thing, and I said, hey, this is doctrinal, because his first thing was doctrine. He said, well, Catholicism? Okay, which version of Catholicism? Which of this? Because he's trying to find an off. He's trying to find, somewhere on the subway to go, pull the cord. I'm getting off the bus. I'm getting off the train or whatever. Like this is my stop. I should not be going in that direction. And he's trying to find outs. And
right. Yeah.
I think that, your grandma.
Yeah.
Is your grandma an intolerant piece of shit?
Well, I have called her a bigot to her face before. I love her very much, but we disagree on certain things. I would never call her what you just described, but
okay. Well,
but she has told me that she thinks that America should be a theocracy. So I know that she is probably in line with the whole Project 2025 thing, and I find that very frustrating.
Yeah. Then I think that you should allocate your frustration to however much makes sense to that person, because your grandma is not a Republican legislator, unless is your grandma a politician?
She is not.
Okay, so then maybe she doesn't deserve as much flack as those people do, but
right.
I think if you called her a bigot to her face, then you probably are comfortable with her owning as much as she deserves.
It wasn't. It's not something I'm proud that I've done. But we were in a very heated argument about the right to marry if you're gay. Yeah. And I said, if you don't allow that, there's no way around it. You're a bigot. And I think she was hurt by that. But I feel like what I said is true. But I do feel bad for making her for hurting her with those words.
I think that in circumstances like that, hurt is exactly what is needed.
You could be right there, and I feel like she's definitely gotten a lot more tolerant.
Yeah.
Over the years to things like that.
Because
I don't feel like.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, saying I don't think that gay people should be able to get married is hurtful, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I agree. Yes,
And so
yes, wholeheartedly.
if somebody says that and I call them out on that and it hurts them,
Mm,
good.
it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you view your grandmother as someone who's capable of growth
Mm.
and they can handle it, go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm not so more like I'm not gonna try to deconvert her or anything like that.
No.
Again, I respect folks, and their religious beliefs. I feel like for a lot of folks, it's really important to them, and it is a positive force for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm struggling with is now, instead of seeing religion as a neutral thing, I'm seeing it as an objectively negative thing, and I don't want to have that that immediate gut reaction to it. It makes me sad to have that gut reaction to it, I guess.
Me too. And also, I think that when we're feeling angry, anger is not a bad feeling. It's bad when you don't give it a place and it leaks out in weird, awful ways. But giving yourself permission to feel angry for a little while and then going, how am I going to channel that anger into something productive is, well, it's human. and it's
you know what?
It's needed.
And with a sewing machine, the way it really punches that needle hard into that fabric.
Yeah. Is that cathartic? Good.
Yeah. No, but I don't think I'm ever going to buy fabric with religious iconography on it again. I don't know if I'm ever going to buy any gifts for my grandmother that acknowledges her religion again, and not as a personal insult to her, but just because I can't bring myself to do that anymore. I don't, or at least currently where I'm at right now, I don't feel like I can actively support religion.
Well,
I think I can still tolerate it, but
well,
I'm struggling.
I do got to say, Sonny, that when it comes to making and knitting things, one thing I love about handmade gifts from friends is when I see it and when I use it, it makes me think of that person. And I think that if you made a, pot holder, and it was not covered in religious iconography, your grandma would still look at it and go, Sonny made that for me.
Yeah, you're right. Yes. Yep.
So you don't necessarily need to. What's her favorite color?
Oh, let's see. I think probably green, and she likes hummingbirds.
There you go.
So I could probably make her, find something with hummingbird fabric on it next time.
Heck yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give her the ones that I make, because I've already finished making her pot holders and the pinch pots, and they came out really well. I'll post a picture of the Discord if people want to see it.
I would personally love to see it. And I think that I hope that your grandma realizes just how much you love her to go through that kind of emotional frustration just so that you can make her something that she would like. That's very sweet of you.
I will never tell her, but I'm sure she. I think that deep down she knows.
Good.
Because we've had religious discussions before, and she knows that I don't, believe in her God. And as much as she's struggled to to convert me, I've just never budged. So the fact that I'm giving her a gift that has that religious iconography on it, regardless, I'm sure that says a lot to her about how much I care about her.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Sonny, you are an absolute sweetheart. I do got to tell you that I when you started talking to me in this conversation, the live chat said, here we go. Sonny has the perfect voice for someone named Sonny. And that is absolutely true. I have to agree with the live chat on that. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for taking my call. Hope you have a good rest of your show.
Well, thank you. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Oh, and also, I know I dropped it, but Sonny, I will be looking in the Discord for those pictures. I think that'll be a lot of fun. All right. Oh, and before I forget, you know what I can send pictures of? That would be really cool. In return is this last week. I know this is so unrelated, but you guys just deal with it. This last week I got a molinillo. And a molinillo is a tool for making Mexican hot chocolate. It is hand carved and very, very cool. And I got to make Mexican hot chocolate with it for the first time yesterday. And so I'll be hopping into the Discord after the show so I can share some pictures of that. I think that'd be fun. All right. Asa, you called. You heard.
I did. I was listening. I was watching.
I'm so glad. I loved the topic that you wanted to call in about, and I really appreciate you calling in. So let me get you kind of dialed into the lower third here. And in the meantime, talk to me. What's on your mind?
So, with my issue is I do not know how to converse, or I guess continue this conversation with people as a whole. In a lot of ways, this whole thing disillusioned me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely see it with like I'm a caregiver, so my clients, a lot of my older clients are conservative or religious, right? Maybe not hardcore Republican, right? And then a lot of my friends, and to be frank, I fled Arizona. I was having a terrible time in Arizona. People say that it's a purple state. It feels super red to me.
Yeah, I have family just outside of Phoenix, and I agree. Especially if you remember the Joe Arpaio times. Yeah.
Yes.
No, right there with you.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah. In a lot of ways, I have a lot. I know I have a lot of disillusionment. That's a lot of internalized resentment. That's I need to work on. Okay.
Yeah.
So then when it comes with discussions too, it's like my friends, like I do talk to them about it, right? How to deconstruct, how to, what flaws in their ways of thinking and their ideas and this or that, right? We talk about those things, right? So it's I feel like I do see a lot of this. I get a lot of this discussion where people people I have to maintain a professional relationship with my clients. That's something I'm sorry, I might be a little over the place.
It's okay.
A little nervous, but
no worries. If you start going in crazy directions, I promise I'll reel you in. But I'm following, and that definitely contextually makes sense. While you're feeling a little scattered, but you're saying that in a professional setting, you're in a situation where you're needing to deal with people who are politically kind of bonkers.
A little opposed, yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's easy for me to get along with my clients because as a caregiver, it is my job to care, right? And if I'm good at my job, that comes through, right? Then they learn to trust me and they learn to listen and stuff. And in those sorts of moments, they take me seriously when I tell them that as a child of two immigrants, I don't speak to my parents anymore, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. As a child of two immigrants and as a trans person, the things that Trump wants to do put me in a lot of danger. And there's this moment where they second guess themselves, where they have to go, where I see on their faces where they want to go, are you sure? And I'm like, and like it obviously gets it can get pretty emotional. The first client I had to tell this to, I did end up breaking down crying, and like they end up taking me at my word, and they're taking the situation seriously. So I appreciate that. I don't know where they are right in the radicalization, but that's not really my responsibility necessarily.
Yeah.
So a lot of the discussion kind of just dies there, right? At the very factual, that's, hey, I know you love me. I know you love having me here. So I need to let you know that may change, right? And that hurts people. That hurts people to be faced with those types of facts, right?
Yeah.
That my old friends in Arizona, that maybe they did vote for Trump. Some of them I know have some pretty deep conservative takes for no religious reasons, which is hilarious to me. And it's like, I feel like after having seen that Trump did manage to get the majority vote, that we can have all these discussions. We can try our best to meet people in the middle and care, right? Empathize, and that's what I was understood would be the best way to go about these discussions is that like my plight and my friends' plight in Arizona, my clients in their homes getting very personalized care, or sometimes the hospice sort of care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all have the same sort of image of a desperate disparate. We're very fractured, right? Yeah. We're all hurting in very similar ways. We all experience poorness. We all experience health problems and problems with the systems that we have to capitulate to.
Yeah.
But we don't agree on why, right? And like I just don't know what to do or what to say or. And like a big part of me has that disillusionment. Like I'm kind of like I kind of just want to explode.
Yeah, absolutely. And what an interesting context to bring to things, because if you're talking about like palliative care, you know, if you're talking about like hospice care, is that what you mean? Like end of life care?
It's, I mean, in some instances, I have worked with clients that have done that are in hospice, but like that's not where I focus, right? Me as a caregiver, I just work with whoever needs me. I'm not an RN or a CNA yet, but I mean like caregiver jobs are important because and on one hand, it lets professionals like CNAs and RNs do the work that they usually don't have time to do. That ends up being one thing I usually do when if I accompany a client to a hospital. Nurses are super busy,
yeah.
So it usually ends up being like helpful to have a regular caregiver just there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just asking for the specifics so that I can kind of tailor my response to it. You know, if you're talking to somebody who is wanting to just monologue about their political issues, no one, I think, would expect you to deal with that.
Right.
And if it's one-on-one, then I think social mores should be sufficient. If someone's being a dick to you, then don't put up with their shit, you know. But if somebody is just an idiot, then treat them like, you know, like. So have you do you go on Reddit?
Not anymore.
No, that's probably bad. That's probably best. There's a.
But I am familiar. So if you use like Reddit terms like neckbeard or whatever, like okay. I would understand what you're saying.
So there's a subreddit called r/oh no consequences.
Oh God! Sounds like one I would have been visiting frequently.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I feel like if you need to kind of what's the word? Desensitize yourself to seeing people faced with the consequences of their stupid actions, or you just need a little bit of catharsis. That's definitely a place to go. If someone's going to be an asshole, and you kind of, you know, put a stop to that, that's a good thing. And if somebody is, you know, if your relationship with them needs to just be professional, then I think you're well within your right to redirect and say, are you comfortable? Do you need anything? You know, okay, let's take care of that. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, let's do this, or, you know, 'cause yeah, in a professional setting, I don't think you need to or are expected to have, you know, those kinds of political conversations with them. So,
right.
You know, yeah, that's got to be really, really frustrating.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah, if I were in your shoes, I would be screaming at the walls. You need an outlet, Asa. I apologize. Awesome.
You're good.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, that was me the first week is I mean, after getting my work done, right, and then on my weekend, yeah, I got drunk. I was screaming at the walls.
Okay, let's
I
find
was
out.
playing Overwatch and like annihilating people like with my with plays that I should not be making, right? But like I'm winning. I'm angry, and like
Yeah.
I'm just going, right.
I
Like no, that was absolutely the first week, and then after that, it's just like okay, I need to do something more productive with this energy. And I'm like at the very least, like my friends are like I'm getting off of Facebook, and I told my friends to get off of Facebook and get off of like Twitter and stuff. I'm like they're seeing me throw these tantrums, and they're seeing me like make a fuss, and like some of them are like genuinely confused about it, and like others are like, well, yeah, that makes sense,
yeah.
right? So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I like have you thought about writing articles or starting a podcast or YouTube channel or volunteering in your
I would
community in
love
some way?
I've been reaching out about volunteer work. A big thing is that like yeah, moving to Washington was it wasn't one that was a decision that I made not because I had resources to make that decision, but because otherwise I would have had even less in Arizona.
Mm.
So yeah, I am working to get myself back on my feet. I'm reaching out to local organizations in Washington. Right, things are going to start freezing over pretty soon.
Yeah.
And one thing the local outreach group here wants to do is make food, just cook food. Right, homeless
Yeah.
people aren't going to come if you just like summon them. But if you have food for them to give them, like they'll show up. Right, that's kind of the logic behind it anyway. And like that's what that's also like one of my areas of expertise is cooking. I'm sorry, I might just be jumping back and forth here, but
No,
yes,
no,
I am interested in doing something. One thing I would love to do is stream my time cooking. I spend a lot of time cooking for clients and with hyper specific diets, and I'm a massive nerd, right? So
yeah.
I think it's an absolute shame the way nerds do not feed themselves. Yu-Gi-Oh! I've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Players with diets that have been so horrendous that I'm like, bro, please let me make you a sandwich.
Hey, Asa.
Yeah.
Let's. This feels like something that I think I would love to do with kind of everybody else. Let's bump this conversation over to the Discord. Yeah.
Understood.
Okay, because I feel like there's more to it, and I think that, in the scope of this show, and in the broad overarching pieces, talking about like having an outlet, inventing the frustrations that you're having around, you're dealing with people who are politically frustrating as hell, and finding a good outlet for that, contextualizing it in as much as you can. Here's what I can do for work. Here's what I can't. Here's what's reasonable for you as a person. Here's what's setting good boundaries. Those are all really good, and I think getting into the specifics would be good for the after show.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope to see you there. Link is in the description. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Alrighty, everybody. I do want to go to the after show. I want to share pictures of the hot chocolate that I've been making, because holy crap, that's fun. If you like the show, consider going to patreon.com/Skeptic Generation. I want to read the super chats while I can. It is that time. So let's do that. Sean Isherwood sent 2 super chats. Thank you, Sean. Sean said, in Dawkins, the selfish gene, morality evolved out of game theory acting on our genes. Then memes take over in the original sense of the word. Yep, that is true. Sean also said, see session 32, page 339 onwards of conceptual mathematics. It goes through examples of toposes. Oh, you got the pages. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. My unfinished journey says, hail Neo, hail Eric, and hail constructive dialogue. Thank you, my unfinished journey. And Susan sends a little bit of love. Thank you, Susan. I really, really appreciate it. Every little bit goes to help. thank you for sticking with me. I feel like I've had some really good conversations, and I'm really glad that you all joined me today. So take care of yourself. Set some reasonable boundaries for yourself and for the people in your life, especially moving into the holidays. If you're in the United States, there's a big holiday coming up. Focus on self-care. Take care of yourself. Thank you for joining me. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and I'm glad we had this talk.